Hi, I'm Daniel Davis with the Community Development Department at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and I'm sitting here today with Jessica Jackley, co-founder and CEO of ProFounder and co-founder of Kiva. Jessica, thank you for sitting with me today.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Jessica, in your career, you've been recognized as an innovator in developing new models for financing entrepreneurial endeavors, through microfinance especially. What is microfinance?
It's a great question to start this off. I'm going to give, a definition that I think helps people picture it the most, especially if someone's watching this right now and is totally new to microfinance. I think it's most helpful, there are a lot of definitions out there, but I think it's most helpful to imagine the things that you access at your bank. Think of the products and services you get there. Think, savings products, loans, insurance-based products, things like that, and imagine how those might be tailored to the needs of somebody living on just a few dollars a day. So obviously they're smaller a lot of times, but they're also uniquely sort of designed to meet those clients' special needs. So insurance that might be based around whether or not, if you're a farmer, whether or not it rains that year, things like that. So very different, tailored versions of those products and services that we're all quite familiar with.
For low to moderate income borrowers specifically, how does microfinance help them overcome barriers that might traditionally impede their success?
I've seen great microfinance programs all over the world, and I think the ones that really excel and sort of lead the pack are the ones that also incorporate training to a great degree and focus on not just providing a tool, not just providing the resource itself, but providing the tools and the education and the perspective that somebody needs to really make the most out of that resource. So walking with somebody for weeks, if not months beforehand, to help them understand what they can do with a particular business that they're already doing or might want to venture into. And I think what that does in a fundamental way is really provide this new perspective on what's possible for someone's life. And that's really contagious, right? The idea that if one person can change something and decide to make things better for themselves, they're often doing that as well for their families, and that spreads for their communities. So other people kind of catch this fire as well and want to do it too. And they see, as someone leads by example, what that could look like for them.
You co-founded ProFounder in 2009, and it's being highlighted as a best practice model for democratizing investments in small business in the United States. What is the ProFounder story, and what kind of impact is it having today?
Sure. ProFounder stemmed out of a desire for me, as somebody who hadn't really worked in business before Kiva at all. I learned about business mostly in my travels on the other side of the planet. I learned from goat herders and seamstresses and farmers. So when I finally kind of came full circle and started to see microfinance here in the United States, I started to ask the question about what was next for a lot of those businesses as they grew and they became small businesses, medium businesses, et cetera. And as I understood the investment scene and what was happening with the vast majority of funding that goes into private companies every year, which is from friends and family, I saw that there was no way for people to do this in an inexpensive way online and to really maximize the communities and the networks that they did have through social networking. And so today, any entrepreneur can come onto the ProFounder website, profounder.com, and create a profile for themselves, tell their story, create, just by answering a few simple questions, legally compliant terms. So we're really talking investing, not a loan. Right now we're talking about actual revenue share agreements or equity, so you're issuing stock in your company if you want to. So we make it sounds intimidating and scary, but we make it really easy so that when your friends and family are contributing, which often they would do anyway, right, offline in a very casual handshake agreement way, check at the dinner table, et cetera, we're allowing an entrepreneur to basically put this online and make it formalized. So to finish the previous thought, they create a profile, they create their pitch, they create these legally compliant terms, and then they use the platform to invite people in, invest directly in their business using all the things we've created online, sign term sheets online, everything. And even we give tools to help somebody manage the payouts that they've decided they'll give people over the coming years so they can really fulfill their commitment, fulfill that contract in a simple and straightforward way. So what we're hopeful about is that this will make the existing investing that's happening offline, which is billions and billions of dollars, make that easier and less expensive for people to do legally and to comply with state and federal laws in an appropriate way, but also just in general kind of catalyze and spark more entrepreneurs to really take those steps forward that they need to, whether they're a startup, whether they are a small business that's been around for a while and want growth capital. We're excited about what they can do for entrepreneurship in general as well as investing.
Earlier in your career, you co-founded Kiva, which initially focused on international peer-to-peer lending.
Yes.
today in the work that you're doing, you've also had extensive experience in Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania. How has your interactions in international communities, how has that influenced the work that you're doing today domestically?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to stop myself from telling lots of stories here about the wonderful entrepreneurs I've gotten to meet all over the world, but I think there are a few simple things. So one, to be able to see in so many different cultures and so many different environments what entrepreneurship is really about, this desire to sort of make things better in the future for, an entrepreneur believes this for themselves, for their families, for their communities. Seeing that repeated, seeing that pattern of entrepreneurship over and over has really allowed me, I think, a unique perspective to see it in right here in the United States as well. Whereas before I didn't see it quite the same way. So that's been really helpful, as we talked about just a second ago, to sort of catalyze what's happening with ProFounder. But I guess one thing that gets sometimes overlooked is, look, there are a lot of resources out there, and there are a lot of organizations that exist to provide those resources. What I get very, very excited about is changing the way people think about what's possible and the potential that they have, or that an entrepreneur in their community might have, to change things for the better. So for Kiva, something that I guess we glimpsed at the beginning, but that's really been galvanized for me as I've seen it over and over just in the last 5.5, 6 years that Kiva's been around. I've seen lenders have their own lives changed by participating in this entrepreneurial journey of somebody who may be right next door, who may be very far away, but they get to at least kind of stick their toe in the water of understanding entrepreneurship and seeing somebody else not as a poor, sad, suffering individual living somewhere in a community that is very low resource. They actually get to see this person as an entrepreneur and someone with dignity, and who is empowered and who can change their own life for the better. So as I look at that, and I look at the journey that lenders have had, being able to participate and connect with somebody, in their entrepreneurial journey in this really beautiful new way for lenders, I'm excited to see investors do that with ProFounder too. So I think that's perhaps the biggest thing we've seen already in ProFounder's very short history. It's just a few months old at this point. We've already seen investors really get excited about then wanting to go do their own entrepreneurial ventures and turning around and doing their own raises on the site. So again, I think this is a good thing for the world in general, to have people really see and understand that there could be an entrepreneurial path for them in some way to participate in that, whether they're going to just advise a company or support it as an investor and truly, financially and otherwise go along for that journey, the ups and the downs in the future, or they really get so inspired that they want to do it themselves. I think that's a really good thing for the world. So I'm excited to see that happen, and I'm hopeful that the work I am doing now and into the future will help perpetuate that.
Jessica, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure sharing this conversation with you today.
Thank you very much.